Hello world, it's John Pinto, your roving realtor, bon vivant, video blogger, podcaster, home chef. And I am here with PhD nutritionist Matt Tryon, founder of Nutrition IQ. Hello, Matt.
Hey! What's going on?
So, Matt, you introduced me to the Oura ring, Oura, A-U-R-A, no, O-U-R-A.
That's right.
O-U-R-A, Oura ring, or in California, Oura.
Oura.
That's right. So I've had it for a couple of weeks. It's very helpful. And I thought what you could do is go through the dashboard with us and familiarize us with the kind of data that it reports to you morning, noon, and night. And I will quote to you a book that was very important to me, probably 4 decades ago. It was called Information Anxiety, written by the guy who did the telephone books. And it talked about how there's a lot of unrefined data that needs to be interpreted into actionable information. And I think that's where you come in. I mean, as a real estate broker, I could give my sellers a competitive market analysis, look at the active listings, the pending sales, the closed escrows, the expireds, the withdrawns, roof inspection, a termite inspection, a home inspection, economic reports, statistics off the multiple listing service, sales to list price ratio, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, days on the market. And they might not be able to make a hide nor hair of it because they're not used to looking at it every day. So you provide that service, that help for your clients and patients. So talk to us about the Oura dashboard in any particular order that you feel appropriate.
Sure. I got a question for you though. Do you like the Oura dashboard? How, as a new user of the Oura ring and using it with the app, how do you like using the app? And do you think that it's easy, user friendly, complicated?
I think for the most part, it's good. I mean, when I get up in the morning, it gives me a pretty good summary of how I slept, the breakdown on deep sleep, REM sleep, light sleep, and being awake is pretty helpful. The oxygenation part, how many non-breathing episodes that I have during the course of the evening, and people might be thinking, "What's that?" But people have sleep apnea, and people do die from sleep apnea. They stop breathing in the middle of the night. I'm not being melodramatic, am I?
Well, no.
No.
I've got sleep apnea and I've stopped breathing. In fact, it wakes me up when I stop breathing. And
Yeah. The activity module is pretty good. You want to start a workout, even if you're just going to be doing laundry, washing dishes, cooking, putting out garbage, stuff like that. That's all good. I think where it could use a little bit more articulation is in the alerts, because when it does read out, it'll say optimal. I like the optimal part. It'll say good, but then it will say needs attention. But I don't really I don't know what to do if something needs attention.
Right.
I do like that as an Italian, I am accustomed to taking siestas in the middle of the afternoon. If I get a little drowsy, I don't fight it. I just take a nap, and then I wake up, and it loves naps. When I get up in the morning, I usually have a good readiness score. And when I take a nap, it adds a couple of points to my readiness score, and it says, now you're really ready to go.
Yeah.
So for the most part, it's good, but part of the reason why I want to have this video with you is to further understand the dashboard, like, for instance, the HRV, heart rate variability. I have no idea what that is, how it's useful. The app tells me mine is good, but I don't know why. So have at it, Matt.
All right. Well, the Oura app's kind of is really simplified, and I can speak to this on a number of levels, because you can look at the raw data or download the raw data from Oura's website, and they'll give you all kinds of analytics and give you graphs and all kinds of charts, which is kind of cool. But when you look into the app itself, it'll tell you about your activity level, and it breaks down everything, as you know, from to readiness to sleep to activity, and it'll give you a breakdown of all kinds of metrics that are associated with that. So the first one that I think we go into is the readiness. And the readiness, it's hard to reverse engineer this score, when they're reverse engineer the readiness score, because a lot of things go into that, particularly the quality of sleep and how long you've slept, your body temperature, activity that you did before. It's proprietary how they calculate that. It's a bit of a black box. But they talk about your resting heart rate and heart rate variability, respiratory rate, and body temperature. All of which I think are particularly important when you want to look at how your body's responding to stress or recovering. So heart rate variability, as you mentioned, is one of the things that has become pretty popular in measuring, because it's a bit of an index of how resilient our body is. Heart rate variability is the variability that we see between heartbeats. Our heart does not beat consistently the same between heartbeats. It's different every single time, and the variability that we have between those heartbeats, the higher that variability is associated with being healthier in general, because our body is more resilient. So it's more of an index of how our body is resilient and how healthy our body's responding to any kind of stressors that we're experiencing.
So I do have pretty good peaks and valleys above and below the baseline when I'm looking at my heart rate variability. I know when we were vlogging with Dr. Cree the other day, the electrophysiologist / cardiologist, he liked the peaks and valleys. He meant they were good. What unit of measurement are we looking at with those peaks and valleys above and beyond the flat line in the middle?
Milliseconds. Milliseconds. So because the electrical activity of the heart is really fast, so a lot of what we're measuring is the milliseconds between those heartbeats. And because it can be a wide range, it depends on your age, it depends on your fitness level. Heart rate variability is still kind of complicated in how it's measured, what measurements to use, because heart rate variability can be measured in a number of ways. It's not just, it can be measured in the time domain, which is what we talk about in terms of the variability between the heartbeats, but it's also measured in a different domain, the frequency domain, we call it, which is how, I don't know how to talk about this
without getting overly technical.
Right.
Without getting overly technical, of which you are.
Yeah.
For lay people like me who get an Oura ring and see their heart rate variability, should we just be satisfied if it says optimal or good or excellent? And if it says pay attention, does that mean it's time to go see the doctor and have them do some kind of an EKG?
Well, yeah, I don't think that any of these wearables are really substitutes for these gold standard tools that can be used in the medical field. I think it gives you an index, an idea of where you are and how it stands, where your body stands, particularly with the heart rate. So, whether something's optimal or whether something optimal, we need to take that with a grain of salt. What I think would be helpful in these apps, and maybe you can speak to this too, and this is why I do what I do, is taking data and applying it. If something is not optimal, where it says like take it easy, what does that actually mean? What kind of things should we be doing? What kinds of things should we be eating? Should we be walking instead of running? Should we be taking more naps, more of this, more of that? It's challenging because they want to give us a reading, a score, this and that, but they don't really want to follow that up with specific recommendations. And that's where I think a lot of these wearable technology things fall short, is applying the data and then giving some sort of recommendation and guidance of what to do after that.
Right, right, right. Okay, so I'm going to give you one more crack at unconfusing everybody on heart rate variability. The app is the app. It's not the doctor. We're seeing a reading on the heart rate variability. I think the readings are optimal, good, pay attention. Is that the readings, basically?
No, mine's usually optimal. I think it's optimal, fair, and then needs attention. Is that
Okay.
what it is? Yeah,
Okay.
I think it's
Okay. So, what can you tell our viewers if they have a wearable that's monitoring a heart rate variability? What should they pay attention to?
Well, in general, I think if you have something that says you have a heart rate variability that needs attention, a lot of that has to do with rest. Most of the time, and you know what? It's funny because this morning I woke up and I had a heart rate variability that needed attention, and that's because I injured myself yesterday. It could already tell my body temperature rose almost a degree overnight, which is associated really with inflammation, and I could tell the moment I woke up that I was just not optimal because that will happen when your body is trying to heal from something. I injured myself working out. So it's not surprising that the Oura ring picked up, one, that my body is like raising the temperature because it's trying to fix the things that I injured while I was working out, but also that it's giving me a recommendation to chill out today, which is great. But I get that. I understand that I need to take it easy. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to lift heavy. So I think you can feel it in your body if you need to take something slow today.
Right. Okay. So let's climb out of the heart rate variable rabbit hole, which is a big one and a deep one, and let's go back to the dashboard.
Well, I want to say that the resting heart rate, I will say one more thing, that they have resting heart rate and heart rate variability. Both are very, very valuable, but I think resting heart rate is something that is probably more indicative of our overall health in general than heart rate variability. And that's only because, and I'm saying this only because it's it's easier to capture, and heart rate variability is still a bit of a nebulous subject and measurement, and we're still trying to figure out how to apply it appropriately.
Okay, so one thing I noticed when I put my Oura ring on is, like clockwork, my resting heart rate is pretty much about 52, which I was pleasantly surprised at because my days being an athlete are way behind me. Even though I'm very active and very animated, I'm pretty relaxed. Mm-hmm. So, can you comment about, resting heart rate, me being surprised at it being 52? What's an optimal range? Where, if you see it, you're in trouble? What kind of range is it when you're working out? How fast does it recover? Blah, blah, blah.
Well, yeah, I can comment that you're a very easygoing guy and that you should have a low resting heart rate. Resting heart rate is, it's dependent on a number of factors. One, it's going to change with age. We've noticed that it's going to change with age, particularly if you're going to be, as you get older, we start getting slower heart rates. And this is where I should say that, everybody is different. So what we need to look at isn't necessarily comparing yourself to a population level. We should actually be comparing our scores to ourselves. So that's why keeping track of your data is really important. What you are measuring on yourself needs to be compared to what's normal for you, not necessarily for what's popular or what's everybody else is, because That's not necessarily going to reflect your physiology, your genetics, what's happening in your life, your stress levels, your diet, your microbiome. It's all kind of interconnected. So when you're measuring, we need to take baselines and look at what our current measures or metrics are, particularly with the resting heart rate. So for you, you were saying it was what,
52.
52? If you've been taking it over the last week, how has that been going up and down? Has it been deviating a lot?
If I get really animated, like doing a lot of running around the house, carrying laundry baskets, carrying out recycling garbage bags, dragging the recycling and the other bins to the sidewalk. If I'm really going, it maybe gets up to 120, but it not doesn't stay there for that long, and that's pretty much where it maxes out.
So that's your maximum heart rate. That's not really your resting heart rate, though, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what my resting heart rate is, but I know when I look at the graph, it's usually like clockwork, about 52 to 57 on the graph.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
That could be. So, normally we could say that a normal resting heart rate would be around 60. But that's going to depend on a number of things. One, your age. You're also well-conditioned athletes have a much slower resting heart rate.
So you're telling me I'm not a well-conditioned athlete, I'm just old.
I'm not trying to tell you. I am telling you that. Was I not subtle on that?
So, what might be alarms that might go off when people are looking at their numbers on their wearable, be it an Oura ring, an Apple Watch, or a Whoop strap or whatever it is that you're wearing?
Well, one of the things that they can do better on this, and when we go into some other unboxings, particularly with like chest straps and Apple Watches and things like that, one of the biggest indicators that we can look at, one besides looking at your resting heart rate and it going up, is our ability to recover from specific activities. So if you're going up to 120 and you come back down to 64, how fast you can recover is indicative of how healthy your heart is in general and your physiology, your ability to adapt. And that's also associated with heart rate variability. So being able to recover fast from activities, much like the ability to recover from a meal, your glucose being able to recover from a meal, is very much indicative of how well we're responding physiologically.
Very good, very good. So let's finish up with talking about some other measurements. We briefly referenced readiness. I don't think we talked sleep, and we didn't really talk activity. We kind of dove into the heart rate variability rabbit hole and got stuck down there for a little while.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. So let's just briefly talk about those other measurements that come up. So in no particular order, how do you want to address them?
So sleep is, I think, one of the biggest things that Oura Ring does really, really well. This is, and I'm going to say this because the Oura Ring is used in a lot of clinical studies. It's been validated scientifically against a lot of gold standard sleeping devices.
What if you come from a red state and you don't believe in science?
Well, they're
Buy yourself a lollipop?
kind of shit out of luck.
Okay, so this is for people that believe in science.
It's for those who
Go figure.
who want to look at data and believe in science.
Go figure. Go figure.
I won't make anything up. The things that it likes to capture are like total sleep. It captures the time in bed. I looked at the resting heart rate, sleep efficiency. All these things like sleep efficiency is sort of an index of how much deep sleep it is to the total time in bed, how much REM sleep, how much light sleep with respect to your total sleep time. When it comes to sleep, I think this is really the good, valuable information, and it's able to capture how much REM sleep you're getting and how much deep sleep, how long it took you to fall asleep, when you went to bed, when you woke up, total time in bed. Those are all extremely important measurements when you're going to bed and when you're sleeping or looking at sleep quality. Now, one of the things that should be noted is that capturing REM sleep and deep sleep can be unpredictable. In fact, you need to kind of look at your brain waves also to kind of look and identify when you're in those particular patterns. So what I would value in these particular metrics is really your total sleep time, when you woke up, when you went to bed, total time in bed, as really good indicators of your sleep quality. If you don't have an Oura ring, because I know they can be quite expensive, just a simple app actually can really help capture that information and data just by tracking sort of noises, how much movement you're or how much is your movement doing throughout the night. Can be sort of an indicator of like how much quality.
So, like the health app on the iPhone?
I'm not sure if the health app does that. There's a number of apps out there that will capture just those three simple metrics, actually, even for free. So it doesn't, I know a lot of apps charge you for using their metrics and stuff, but you don't, the really important ones you can get for free and you don't even need to buy it.
Where I have found it to be most helpful is number one, my oxygenation. Talks about whether or not I'm gasping for air in the middle of the night. That's been pretty good.
Yeah.
It has helped me see if I make questionable eating decisions too late or the wrong thing, how that manifests itself in good or bad sleep.
I think it's fantastic also. In fact, I think one evening we were talking about Ellen had used her ring and she had 92% oxygenation, which was extremely low and kind of threw me for a loop, because that's a good indication, of course, that she's not breathing at night also. So, and I've noticed that. I've used my ring, I've experimented with this, taking my ring off and not using any kind of CPAP or anything. And I've noticed that my oxygenation goes down also when I'm not using my CPAP. Down anywhere from 1% to 3% when I'm not using it.
Yeah.
So, and I just, so it's pretty good at capturing that information and breathing regularity. Again, that's another one that you can kind of tie in with that. The other one also that I think I mentioned to you is the temperature. I think temperature is a really good indicator of our circadian rhythm and how we're responding or healing or whether we're getting sick. And I've used that a lot to determine what I need to do in terms of that day. Like, how do I need to take it easy or am I okay to go? Those are related to heart rate variability, resting heart rate. They're all tied together.
I've noticed that my temperature has been mostly net 0.0. In other words, no plus a half, no minus a half. It's been pretty much the same.
Stable.
Except that night where I ate the heavy dinner that didn't agree with me, and then my temperature was elevated by 0.5%. And I was talking to somebody that mentioned that they knew they were going to get COVID before they knew they had it because of an elevation in their temperature on the Oura ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's happened to me too. I could tell when I was getting sick days before it actually happened.
Yeah, yeah. And then the activity I like, because there are alerts that if you stay inactive for too long, the Oura ring does want you to get up every hour and move around a little bit. And I have found that, again, the Oura ring is very friendly if you want to start an activity log and batching a bunch of domestic chores into the activity log, then it'll count all your movement and all your calorie burning and all your steps. And I have found that it's kind of like a good angel on my shoulder telling me, get up, move around, and start doing something.
Yeah, mine I've customized to say, "Hey, dumbass, it's time to get up. Time to move your ass."
Yeah, very good, very good. So, are there any other closing remarks you have for our viewers on the Oura Ring dashboard?
The Oura Ring dashboard is very thorough in the information that it gives you. It's so much information, actually, it can be overwhelming sometimes, but it takes an understanding to see how to apply these and what to do differently. If you have any questions about it, you can contact me at mtryon@nutritioniq.com. And I'm happy to go through the dashboard with you and help you kind of understand what are the most important metrics and the things that are related to each other that will make the biggest impact on your sleep, your activity, and how you go about your day.
Very good, very good. So, in conclusion, the metaphor that I come to mind with is Indiana Jones, the first movie. First he's got the little darts coming across the walkway, ready to kill him like it kills the skeleton that's hanging on the wall. Then he's got the tiles that are moving, and he might go through a hole. Then he's got the big ball chasing him down the road. Then he's got the indigenous people shooting bows and arrows after he's running towards the seaplane. And, quite frankly, especially in this environment with so much media, so much TV, so much radio, so much video, so much terrible fast food pounding you, 18 hours a day with commercial messaging, people being over busy, it's kind of like we're all walking into very dangerous territory blindly, going into a Himalayan mountain excursion with no Gurkha to guide us, and people are just obliviously damaging themselves because they're not monitoring their numbers on demand, real time, and having that data available. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that's accurate. We're in the age of information, and data is the oil of the 21st century. Data is extremely important, and using data, how to use data, is going to be more and more important because we're going towards individual medicine, customized medicine, because we have an issue where things like chronic diseases like diabetes are going to double in the next couple of years, and nobody's really satisfied with the current medical system. We're moving towards and on top of this also, being covered for doctor's visits and things like that are starting to become less and less likely because of the cost of Medicare or medical insurance and things like that. Capturing your data, and I can't emphasize this enough, if you can keep track of those kinds of things, all the things that you eat, how you sleep, when you exercise, and keeping track of them daily saves you money. It saves you time. It's going to save you a lot of heartache or a lot of issues down the road. And you won't have to deal with, you don't have to worry about those kinds of issues as they come down because you've been taking the steps and you know how to apply wearable technology and use that data to customize your lifestyle so you're living optimally every single day.
Yeah, I'm delighted. I feel like a kid in a candy store with all the wearables because as one gets older, one feels that you're more at risk, and anything I can do to monitor my data, my numbers, I'm going to take advantage of. So, Matt, if somebody wants to engage you and get a little help in this area, how do they contact you?
Yes, if you're interested in being proactive in your life and your health and taking charge of that, please contact me at mtryon at thenutritioniq.com.
Very good. Well, Matt, thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you all on the next video. Bye for now.